Good morning, everyone. I want to bring you my updated tier list for Season 2 today. I'm not going to be showing my face in this one because sometimes when I do it kind of degrades the video quality a little bit, but just be aware that I am here behind the list and I'm looking tired but happy as always. I honestly think it's a little bit early to make the Season 2 tier list because the metagame hasn't quite cauterized yet and I need to do a little bit more research on a couple of characters, but I got so many requests to make the list right now, and I saw a couple of other new lists that I didn't agree with, so I had to sit down and think about it last night, and I'm confident enough that this is what the list should look like that I can make it right now, but just be aware that even in my own mind it might change a little bit over the next few weeks, and that's why I am especially interested in your opinions on this, so definitely feel free to weigh in with your own opinions on the characters that you specialize in the comment section. So the way I've constructed it is 4 tiers, where I think the top tier, the 1 tier, is where the characters are unreasonably good, 4 is where they are unreasonably weak, and then everybody in the middle, just in a sort of relationship where the 2s are stronger than the 3s. But I think the ideal balance situation would be if every character in the game found themselves in either 2 or 3. I haven't done one of those tiers where you have 2 axes, where one is how good the character is and the other one is whether or not they, air quote, have faults. I've never understood what that's supposed to mean. If you look at Devil Jin, for example, he's not a balanced character design whatsoever. He has a couple of moves that are just unreasonably good, and then the rest is kind of gimmicks and laser beams and flying through the air, so it's not a balanced design whatsoever, but it doesn't make him any less top tier. So I think just creating the list purely based on how good the character is, in my opinion, and this is for the online environment, is the easiest way to make it digestible. So I'm going to jump it in at the bottom and work my way up, and I'm going to try to keep it short because sometimes when I talk about this I can go on and do tangents for like hours. So you can see that I've singled out a character at the very bottom who I think should be considered categorically the worst character in the game right now. It's very strange when you have a character like Gigas, who is considered by most people, I think, who know anything about the game, to be like in the bottom 3 characters in the game, and then you release a major balance patch and you make him weaker. It's very strange, but I sort of see what they've gone for with the design. When they first released Gigas, I saw a developer interview where they stated that the philosophy behind the character is he's supposed to be a character who's scary to block against. You don't want to stand around blocking because it makes him more dangerous. And so the way that came to bear in his design is he can charge up these moves that put the opponent at a massive disadvantage, and then he can mix you up from this stance called Goliath. And you can see that they've wanted to emphasize that part of his design more in the new season because they've made Goliath better. Some of the options are non-reversible, he's got more damage, the stance is just easier to use overall, but it just does not make up for the fact that he's weaker in all of these areas that are more important, just solid neutral game, mid poke, stuff like that. Your down forward 1, which was one of your most important mids, is nerfed. His 1-2, which was mainly a block punisher but was very useful as a get off me tool in some situations, is now launch punishable on block. I've heard some people make comparisons between Gigas' 1-2 and flash punches from Mishima's and saying if Mishima's 10 frame block punisher, which is also very good, can be launch punishable, why not Gigas? And there's a very easy answer to that. You can hit confirm the flash punches from the Mishimas and therefore create safety for yourself, but with Gigas, when you press the move, you either finish it or you don't, and there's no way to hit confirm that. So if you're trying to use it as a panic move in some situation, you're just going to get launched every time you get blocked now, so it's crappy. They've nerfed a setup golem stance pretty much out of the game. I don't want to dwell too much on Gigas here, but if you want to create a mix-up or a mix-up stance, you need one option to be scary enough that it incentivizes the opponent to eat the other option. They need to synergize, and so that's why you usually have a low and a mid for your mix-up. The reason Goliath stance works as a mix-up with a high and a mid is that the high is unblockable. The reason 1-1-2 for Katarina is a viable mix-up for 1-1-1 is that the 1-1-2 is so minus on block that the opponent's scared to block it. A high needs to be scary on block to be a viable mix-up for a mid, and when you take a stance like Golem for Gigas and you just make both options he has very easy to deal with mids that the opponent can just block, then you've kind of destroyed the stance. And if you're not crushing highs with the stance currently, there's no viable application for it whatsoever. The buffs to 443 don't matter because the move's not useful. They did buff 442 though, and that is a change that I suggested for Gigas way back when. It's something that I've been talking about with the character if you look at my old videos, so I'm very happy about that because it's logical. But again, it's not going to make up for the fact that you're just a weak character, and they've tried to sort of make you rely too heavily on one specific stance. Some characters are probably still going to be able to deal with this stance, and that means that Gigas also has a very poor matchup against characters who can do that. And so your most important and most emphasized sort of aspect of your character can just become neutralized by a couple of characters in the roster. So he's underbalanced, unbalanced, and very, very weak, and I think it's sad. But let's move on. You can see that I have 3 more characters in the low tier. Lars is here. For about a week, Lars was considered pretty good because they gave him a 12 frame move that was broken, and that was unintentional, so it was nerfed out of the game. And the changes that remain to Lars have pushed him in the right direction by about 5% or so. It's a push in the right direction that is just not nearly big enough to make the character more viable. So he's still going to live down here. If you want to make a very weak character a lot better, the answer is not to give them one move that is completely broken and too good. You want to use aspects of the character that already exist to create more synergy or improve things overall to make the character a more complete package. You don't want to just stick a broken move on them and then call them better. And so I'm glad that they removed that 12 frame thing that he had, but he's still going to be very weak going forward, but he's a little bit better than he was previously. And then you can see that I've actually placed Eliza down here, which I'm very sad about. Eliza was kind of weak-ish, in my opinion, before. She was kind of hanging on the edge of 3 tier, in my opinion. But I think she's weaker in the new season, meaning that she's fallen off that ledge and she's down here now. It's also another character who wasn't particularly strong, so it's strange to make her weaker. They wanted to emphasize her super, so they made that a lot better and more useful, but she doesn't really use her super that much, and I don't think they've incentivized you enough to use it a lot more. I think you're still going to be using your bars. If you can use 2 EX moves to every super, I think you would rather use 2 EX moves than the super. And I think your most important, most powerful move, the EX dive kick, was nerfed. They slashed the damage of that way down. So, and also the new EX fireball. I've listened to some pretty good Eliza players, some high level guys saying that they don't think the change matters all that much. So overall weaker than she was before, and she was already quite weak. So I think she belongs down here now, and it's sad because she's one of the coolest characters ever in Tekken. Next we have Yoshi, and this is a contentious point, and you might not agree with this, and that's absolutely fine. I just used to think that Yoshi was very weak, and I didn't see anything in the patch notes for him that stood out as making him a lot better, so I just let him remain down here. But if you disagree, then definitely let me know why. Yoshi has always had awkward and low damage combos, sort of gimmicky stuff overall, but he doesn't have that solid core of stuff that you can always rely on to get good and high damage. Very good weird situational stuff all day, but just weak combos and kind of weak neutral game overall, in my opinion. So that's why I think he's bad, but again, that might be a contentious point. Moving on to the 3 tier, and this is where it gets a lot happier. I think Lee and Miguel have graduated, and they're now going to be sort of dancing in the pantheon of the viable in the new season, and this is something I'm super happy about. The changes to Miguel are really fun. They make the character stronger overall, and it's just the sort of boost that he needed. They're not going to be as strong a couple of weeks from now as they are right now, because people are going to learn how to deal with them more properly. But I think he's better. I think he has reliable stuff, solid stuff that he can rotate to get good damage now. I think he has enough different ways to force his opponent into a mix-up situation off of Savage. That Savage is a very good mix-up stance now. You can use back 3, you can use up forward 1, you can use 1, 2, 4, and the fact that your low is better from Savage, that your mids are better from Savage, are all just boosts to the character, and I think it's such a welcome change, so I'm super happy about that. Lee I was never very knowledgeable about, but I heard a lot of people who do play him and who are good with him saying that they do think he's much more solid now, so I think he's graduated too. And then the other characters here that you might be a little bit surprised to see, well, Chloe is not a bottom tier character anymore either, in my opinion. She's gotten stronger. Her new new manual back turn is a big deal for her. It really works. You can sort of jump around from a range and really stress people out with that. She has a new good power crush and a lot of really good cool stuff. Bears, in my opinion, were not bottom tier characters before, and they didn't change all that much, so they're going to remain in this tier. You can see that Kazumi is down here, and I think she's quite a lot weaker in the new season, significantly nerfed, and I think this is probably where she's going to end up. But that's a little bit up in the air for me. But again, it's unfortunate that when you change a character, I mean, I get that you as a designer have this vision for the character that you want to come through, but you can't just nerf the most useful things they have and then buff arbitrary things that don't get used, like the buff to down 1-2 for her. It does massive damage. It's a huge counter hit tool, but it's not good. It's just going to get blocked and punished every time. It has no pushback. You can't do that. I mean, when you buff a character in the game, you need to buff things that are significant. It's something we might actually talk a little bit about. So people were saying, for example, that Miguel's new Savage Back 2, which is a punch parry, is a normal hit launcher, or no, it's a launcher when he punch parries now, and that's such a big part of the balance changes, and I disagree with that. It's not that it's not a cool or very good change, it's just that how many times do you use that move in your standard rotations? How many times does it come out in a typical game? When you're talking about Dragunov, a buff or a nerf to his down 2, which is half of everything he does, is very significant. And if you buff, I mean, Scorpion Scissors with Dragunov, that could be interesting and fun and feel really strong, but how many Scorpion Scissors is he doing as compared to his down 2? If you are making balance changes that you want to be significant, you need to do it to moves that actually see a lot of significant usage, especially if you're talking about how the character is going to change in terms of his or her viability, right? So Kazumi, your jabs were pretty much your most important aspect, and they're a lot weaker. Her combo damage is still very low, and the sort of saving grace of Kazumi's combo damage was that she got very good stuff at the wall. That's weaker now, so yeah, I think she's much worse, and it's sad because I didn't think she was broken or anything, so there you go. The last thing I'm going to mention here is that, two more things. Katarina is down here, and you could make an argument that she's stronger now and should be bumped up to the next tier, into the 2 tier. And I can see that argument, but I think she was actually nerfed in a couple of important areas as well, so maybe not. But again, she's sort of riding the line between 2 and 3. And then I've placed Lei and Anna here. Part of that is my own ignorance about the characters, but I think they both seem solid and viable enough that they are going to be at least 3, and then you could make arguments for other tiers further down the line. But I have to really study them a little bit closer to be absolutely sure. But I think this is a fine sort of preliminary position for them. In the 2 tier, I don't think all that much has changed. Characters who were very strong, in my opinion, are going to remain very strong. Just looking at it now, nothing that stands out to me is something that I need to talk about. Paul got some pretty necessary nerfs, but is still good and is going to play very similarly to what he did before, but he is a weaker character than he was before. I think Shaheen got some pretty cool new tools, but also a couple of slight nerfs. Claudio is another one of those characters who got nerfed in some areas, and buffed in some others. I always thought that his combo game was pretty awkward, and I'm kind of glad that they've cleaned that up a little bit. But yeah, he's still going to be super annoying and just a nightmare to have to play against. He's cheapness personified, in my opinion, but you can't make an argument for him to be like as good as the 3 characters in the very top tier. And if we are going to talk about the very top tier, you can see that it looks, in my opinion, the exact same as it did before. Dragunov and Devil Jin and Xiao Yu all needed to get pretty significant, pretty large nerfs, in my opinion. And while they all did get adjusted, it was not big enough that it's going to make a significant change for the characters. You could listen to Aris the other day talk about Dragunov, for example, and how the down 2 isn't that significant of a change to him. He has better combo damage now. You know, they gave him new combos and stuff, so you could make an argument that I don't know if I agree with, that he's actually stronger than before. He's kind of the reverse Gigas. Why would you just make the opposite change to what you needed to make to a character like that? But it's not going to hurt him. Devil Jin needed his Hell Sweep looked at definitely, and it had some slight adjustments to it, but I don't think they were significant enough either. So these characters are going to remain in my mind as like the top 3 that stand out as the sort of unreasonably powerful. and for now I don't think any other character has stood out as so much more powerful in the new season that they deserve to be bumped up to this tier. But that might be an argument. There are a couple of characters that I'm thinking about maybe needing a promotion, but maybe we'll talk about that in another video. So before I rant too much about this, I want to say that while I did some complaining in this video, I think that the patch is overall a big success, and I'm glad that the tiers have been shaken up and changed a little bit. The top tier hasn't changed, but everything else has seen some nice change, and I think the meta game is different. It's fun to play online right now, and while some of my absolute favorite characters got hurt, some of my other favorite characters, my number one favorite character, Miguel, got so much more fun and viable to play that I'm very happy about the new patch overall. Let me know what you think about this, and I know there's a lot of opinions and disagreements when we do stuff like this, but I think this is I think this makes enough sense that it's okay. The other one that you might have a lot of opinions about is Asuka. She got a bunch of really good buffs, and she might be a higher tier character now than she was before. So let me know what you think about that. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys again very soon.